we talked about judgment, the rule of law.
Yes.
Now, this year, for the 2015 elections, we've had peace accords signed across the country, different states, national, and all of that. Are these peace accords in any way helping to curb what these fears of what might likely be?
Well, one would have thought that the essence of the peace accord would be to ensure a peaceful electoral process. But I want to say categorically that the peace accord has not worked. Let me give you a very practical instance. In Rivers State, my own state, some weeks after the peace accord was signed, a peace deal was brokered by the American ambassador to Nigeria, somewhere in GRA, between all major contestants to the election. You saw and we witnessed an upsurge in violence. And
after the signing?
Yes, immediately after the signing. As I speak to you today, the APC secretariat in Okrika was bombed. The APC as a political party has not been able to hold any political rallies in Okrika. As I speak to you today, a lot of members of the opposition party are arrested by the police on trumped-up charges. And because the courts are not open, they are held in custody. Nobody is doing anything about them. And the police will merely tell you that they are investigating the matter. And that is where it ends. So we think that beyond the rhetorics, we should be able to build very reliable institutions. We should be able to ensure that these institutions carry out their duties without fear or favor. A situation where some people will bomb, in fact, courts are bombed in Rivers State. Maybe you don't know. Courts are bombed. If a party feels, a political actor feels that the judgment will be against him, maybe has been advised by his lawyers, they just activate a process to bomb the court. And we are saying that this trend cannot continue. It cannot continue. So beyond the rhetorics, our institutions must be lively. We should not have phenomena like institutional bias. And then I would drag you, I would want to, please, with greatest respect, disagree with my friend here, where he said, when I was talking about poverty as one of the causes of political violence, I wasn't looking at it squarely from an economic vantage point.
Exactly.
We have the poverty of the mind. If a man does not have resources to go to school, what can you say? How can he be educated enough to be able to appreciate good from bad? Now, don't look at it from the angle that everybody in Nigeria has a parent or a guardian that brings him up. Exactly. There are a lot of children that roam the streets, that are abandoned. So you have to give them equal consideration. So in a situation where they are impoverished, in a situation where they have not been able to assess the niceties of education, then they would have deformed thinking.
Okay.
And then
I have to come in here because we're almost out of time. Let's look at going forward. If the four of you here can prefer solutions.
Yes.
How do we go avoid electoral violence? And
it must start with education, national reorientation. I mean, look at how Boko Haram started. It started from a party using local thugs to harass political opponents, to gain political advantage, and then abandoning them after winning office. And what happens? They blossom into a major terrorist group.
So we're talking about education of both the would-be thugs and the politicians.
Oh, and politicians. Yeah, because as a leader, you must impart the right kind of message of hope and development, message of peace. You cannot overstate it.
Okay.
It is very germane towards solving this problem.
Singapore did something many years ago and went into a mass housing project for the common good of its citizens. And they asked President Lin Kuei that why was he doing this? He said, when people have a stake in their country, they will not destroy it. The issue of stakeholdership as a nation is at stake. With 300 and plus tribes in Nigeria, a few people are left out and a few think they even own Nigeria. We need a program nationally through I repeat, through the religious institutions, because people listen to the imams or pastor every week, at least once a week. We need the educational sector to infuse it at the primary level, secondary school level, and the university level to ensure that people begin to understand that Nigeria is owned by all. The unity of truth has to be on the ground. And we must look for a project that would create a buy-in, that everybody has a stake. Because today, a lot of people don't have a stake, and they have nothing to lose, as it were, in quote. So whether it's poverty, whether it's immorality or anything, they will use any weapon to justify the fact that what's my business? Nigeria is not my business. So we need these programs to make it work.
Mr. Kafo.
Yes, people talk about restructuring Nigeria. I speak about reordering Nigeria, to reorder our value system, so that if you reorder Nigeria, people will fall into their own strata within the society. But you see a society that is totally dysfunctional, because starting from the education you're talking about, some people will tell you they want free education, and you want to offer free education from university, primary school to university, and you have not said how you're going to do it. I'm not challenging anybody, but I'm just saying that in doing that, you must have a system that will support the education you're talking about. And if you do that, for me, and you get the brightest and the best at the apex of our educational system in the university, then you begin to reorder the society from there, and everybody will know where he falls in. But a system where you have the brightest and the best, you can't retain them within the educational system. They, after their first degree, first-class candidates, they all migrate out of this country, and then they don't come back. And there and then, you see the leftovers will go to oil companies and go to the banks. That is where our problem starts. Until we reorder society where you get the brightest and the best to stay where they're supposed to be, think for us, and organize the society in a proper way, then everything will now go down that way. But a system where you have people, anybody can become a governor from nowhere, anybody can become a legislator from nowhere, no preparations, no nothing, then the system continues to degenerate.
Mr. Holo.
I think the solution to electoral violence in Nigeria is simply national reorientation, just like my friend rightly mentioned, because some years ago, Martin Luther King said that the development of a nation does not lie on the fortification of its strength, not on the beauty of its public building, but on its men of culture and enlightenment. And so how enlightened is your mind? That is the question. So it has to start from that angle. Then you also have improvement in leadership. I think when the head is rotten, there's nothing any part of the body can do. So the leaders of this country must be able to set this country on the path to progressive trajectory. A situation where, for instance, there will be a bombing and then there will be silence in presidential places does not augur well for us, because there are people that look up to these leaders as role models. And so when you don't condemn violence, when you tolerate it from your body language, it will definitely incentivize, it will incentivize more violence. Indeed. So I think that we should also be looking at improving our leadership skills. And apart from that too, I think we should also ensure that we strengthen our institutions.
Okay, thank you very much. We have to leave it there for today. We have to leave it there for today. And it's just for me to say thank you to all of you. I will start with the lady this time, Mrs. Juliet Beniche of the Institute of National Transformation, Mr. Willie Okafor, Justice, Development and Peace Commission.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Charles Aholu, legal practitioner, Mr. Tunde Makalabi, convener, Professionals for Change. Thank you all very much for coming to share your insights with us this morning. Sunrise will be right back after this short break. Stay with us.